And to Culture Watch now, before we get to the comic genius of Donald Trump, something not so funny at all. Now, there was something that Victorian Premier Daniel Andrews said earlier this week that I thought was a frightening insight into a man clearly drunk with power. In almost all of country Victoria, there are 0 infections. So Rachel Baxendale of the Australian newspaper asked the obvious: why are people out bush, no infections, still forced to wear a face mask in Victoria, even in the open air, and even if they're walking alone? It makes no sense. Here's Daniel Andrews' answer.
Well, what's the issue, Rachel? Well, seriously, what's the issue? Why is it such a massive issue to have to wear it?
It serves no health purpose if they're not
but
in
that's
contact with another human being.
Well, that's an esoteric debate, really, isn't it? That's not really like, and if maybe there'll be a time when we have the luxury of having those sorts of debates.
I think whenever I look at him, I think, how close to an authoritarian dictator is too hard a word, but is Australia. Joining me is Rowan Dean, columnist, editor of The Spectator Australian, host of Outsiders on Sky News on Sundays at 9 p.m. Now, Rowan, at 9 a.m. Please do not adjust your alarm. Hey, Rowan, I don't want to, but I do want to keep harping on about Victoria because I do think it's a really frightening manifestation culturally what's going on there. What offended me about that answer was Andrew seeming to think it's rude to ask him to justify an absolutely pointless ban causing inconvenience to others, just say that's just an esoteric debate when there's no reason for it. What's your problem with it?
Well, you know, I'm not a medical health expert or a mental health expert or anything like that, and I don't pretend to be, so this is purely my opinion. But I think Daniel Andrews has got some serious problems, psychological problems going on there, because he doesn't understand that it's his job to serve the people of Victoria. He's behaving more and more like an autocrat, the divine right of Andrews, if you like, where once he imposes something, you have no legitimate right to question it. Now, this is incredibly dangerous, Andrew. It's so dangerous for democracy. It's so dangerous for Victoria. It's so dangerous for the for people who should be taking sensible precautions about COVID-19, but are now going to think, this is rubbish, this is garbage, there's no logic to any of this. For example, Andrew, I'll quite happily wear a mask if I'm going into a busy supermarket or something, and the moment I'm out the doors, I'll whip it off and be quite happy, and then I'll go for the walk or walk the dog or doing whatever and be out in the open air. And I understand fully the medical reasons for wearing a mask in crowded places where you might come into contact with someone, or you might risk some kind of contagion. But out in the open, away from it, there is zero medical or logical or rational sense for doing this. So what Dan Andrews is doing, he's poo-pooing someone who's asking a perfectly legitimate question, and it's incredibly dangerous because there are health risks associated with the wearing of masks. This has been reported many times by Dr. Fauci, by authorities in Australia and elsewhere, that, yes, if you're permanently wearing a mask, it can actually be counterproductive and can, in certain circumstances, damage your health. So here's this character, Andrews, dismissing legitimate concerns, A, that are illogical, the ban, the imposition, the forced compulsory wearing a mask, and B, completely dismissing the potential negatives. And I say again and again, this fella Andrews, by his own laws, his own manslaughter, industrial manslaughter laws, time and time again, behaves like the very, very worst example of someone in private enterprise dismissing out of hand, oh, I don't care about this, there might be a risk there might be a danger there. And I think this is just so damaging to the people of Victoria, but also so damaging to our democracy, Andrew.
Yeah, but also, Rowan, think there was a dangerous reversal of a presumption here that he didn't feel that he had to justify on the face of it, completely pointless ban on other people. And it was impertinent even to ask him to justify it, as if you've got to actually make the case for not having a ban imposed on you that's absolutely pointless. Like, you know, he can do what he likes, and he'll listen if you make a good case for him not making you do this or that. I just thought this is a guy that is not serious enough, doesn't feel the weight enough of the awesome inconvenience and bans and robbing of liberty that is imposing on fellow citizens, that you've got to plead for your freedom. I think that is so dangerous an attitude, and here we have it. And so many journalists seem to just sit by and
it's also the petulance of his petulance and his sneering at any kind of legitimate questioning does raise for me questions about his psychological state of mind, because that's not how normal people behave.
Enough of Victoria. It's an absolute madhouse. People really, I think you've got to wake up. This is. It's like East Germany, parts of it at the moment, is seriously sick. Finally, the Trump-Biden debate. I talked to you earlier about some of this. What's your verdict?
Well, I would say that Trump did not win it, so I guess Biden did win it. Simply because, as you discussed earlier, he didn't start talking about the cockroaches crawling up his hairy legs or whatever he normally does when he's in front of a camera or in his basement. So in that sense, he performed well to camera. There was a lot of looking down the barrel and addressing the audience. But for me, it was a missed opportunity for Trump. He really could have nailed Biden on a number of issues. But I did enjoy the humour. I enjoyed Donald Trump's sense of humour as much as his politics, and that's saying something. There were some great gags. I loved the one-liner he did at one point to Chris Wallace, who, was, as you were discussing earlier, was so ridiculously biased, where Donald Trump said, well, I thought it's not a big surprise, but I was supposed to be debating Joe Biden, not debating you. And he was. This Chris Wallace fellow was debating Donald Trump. He was setting up questions that were loaded and then debating them. And there was another great gag, which was...
well, here it is. Here it is. I'll play it for you, Rowan. I'll play it for you. Here's Donald Trump, also, I think, cracking a good one.
President Trump, you're holding large rallies with crowds packed together, thousands of people.
Outside.
Outside, yes, sir. Agreed. Vice President Biden, you are holding much smaller events with...
Because nobody will show up.
People with...
Well, it's true. Nobody shows up to his rallies.
All right.
It's fantastic.
I liked it even better the second time around. What did you make of that? I think, he gets into a lot of trouble, doesn't he, Trump? Often by making a joke that is sardonic, cynical, having a laugh, and people, I think, deliberately in the media take it seriously, like, inject yourself with whatever it was to cure the virus. A joke. I thought it was the delivery.
He has a great sense of humour. He's he's razor sharp, Trump. He picks it like that and comes straight back with the one-liner. And I also loved the bit where he questioned Biden's use of the word smart, saying, I wouldn't use that word around. I wouldn't bandy that word around, Joe, not when you came bottom of your class, etc., etc. So he doesn't miss an opportunity to come out with those zingers, I think we used to call them, or Bill Shorten used to try and call them. But I thought there were many missed opportunities where, particularly when Joe Biden was making it so clear that he's beholden to the left, he's beholden to the radical left, he's beholden to the whole agenda of defunding the police, etc., etc. And I think Trump could have gone in a lot harder there. But then again, this Chris Wallace was just not letting him get in there, and Trump was forced to interrupt simply because the dice were loaded.
If he'd interrupted less, I think it would have gone much better for him. Look. That is one thing I like about Donald Trump, that he's an optimist. You feel like he's got a positive vision, even if you don't like some of the way he goes about it. Biden, on the other hand, I think really lacks that light touch. Here was his pitch today for voting for him, and I think it would sure wipe the smile from your dial. Have a listen.
Under this president, we become weaker, sicker, poorer, more divided, and more violent.
Rowan, in the 30 seconds left, what do you make of that?
Well, he was wandering around telling everyone they're going to get sick, everyone's going to get COVID, it's all doom and gloom. It was not a very positive message, and I think I'm still predicting that Donald Trump will win this, I hope in a landslide, and he will do so because the American people are not going to fall for
Rowan,
the Biden tricks.
I noticed that slide. It went from he will win in a landslide.
In a landslide, Andrew. How much have we got on it, mate?
Rowan Dean, thanks for your time, mate.
Thanks, Andrew.